Your life mirrors your beliefs, always, without exception. The match is exact because your beliefs are the hypnotic instruction your perception is following. And once you see the belief begins to dissolve. That is the teaching the modern movement removed, because the modern movement wants you to keep your beliefs and add positive ones on top. Seth said your beliefs are already running the whole show, and the work is to find them and choose them consciously instead of inheriting them and forgetting you did. Welcome to the Reality Revolution. I'm your host, Brian Scott, and today we're going to delve deeply into the hidden teachings of Seth. I have several previous episodes where I've read the channelings of Seth, but I decided now is a good time for us to go even deeper. December 8th, 1963. A small apartment on the second floor of a row house in Elmira, New York. A 32-year-old poet sits at a card table with her husband. Between them is a Ouija board that they purchased a week ago for an experiment. She's an atheist, a skeptic, a former Catholic who walked away from the church in her teens and never looked back. She writes science fiction. Her husband paints magazine illustrations to pay the bills. They are working on a book about the paranormal. The entire point of the project is to debunk it. The first two sessions with the board produced nothing. The planchette sat dead under their fingertips. Tonight, on the third try, something different happens. The planchette begins to move. It moves fast, articulate. It spells out coherent sentences. It answers questions about the poet's life that nobody in that room could possibly know. The husband begins writing everything down in shorthand because his journalism training kicks in even when his rational mind has stalled. The voice on the board names itself Frank Withers, and then it says something stranger. Frank Withers was a name it used in a recent life, but it has had many. Its real designation is closer to a vibration than a word. You may call me Seth. Within weeks, the poet stops needing the board. The voice begins coming through her directly. Her face changes when it speaks. Her voice drops an octave. Her vocabulary expands beyond anything she has ever encountered in print. Her husband sits at his desk with a pen and a notebook and writes down every word in shorthand at over 100 words per minute. For the next 21 years, he will keep writing. By the time it ends, there will be over 1,500 recorded sessions, 20 published books, 500 boxes of transcripts archived at Yale University Library, the most thoroughly documented channeling event in modern history. And the words that came through that woman would become the operating system of an entire movement. If you've ever heard the phrase, you create your own reality, you've heard Seth. If you've ever heard the phrase, the point of power is in the present, you've heard Seth. If you've ever heard a teacher say, your beliefs build your experience, that thought becomes matter, that you live in a world your mind is constructing, you have been hearing Seth, even if you have never heard the name. Here's what the modern manifestation movement quietly stripped out and then threw away. The teachings that came through that small apartment in Elmira were stranger, older, and more dangerous than the soft pastel version being sold today. Tonight, we restore the original. This is the story of Jane Roberts, the unwilling channel, and Seth, the voice that taught a generation how reality is built, then said something most of his students were too afraid to repeat. To understand what Jane Roberts received, you have to understand who she was before any of this began. Jane was born in 1929 in Saratoga Springs, New York. Her mother was bedridden with rheumatoid arthritis from the time Jane was a toddler. Her father abandoned the family early. For years, Jane was the sole caretaker of a mother who screamed at her, manipulated her, and on at least one occasion turned on the gas in the kitchen and told Jane they were both going to die together. Jane spent stretches of her childhood in a Catholic orphanage. She lost her faith in her teens after watching the church fail every person in her life who needed it. She grew up sharp, suspicious, and brilliant. She became a published poet by her 20s. She married Robert Butts, a quiet, methodical artist who took commercial illustration work to keep the rent paid. They settled in Elmira in a second-floor apartment on West Water Street. They had no children. They had 2 cats and a typewriter and a single rule between them, which was they would always tell each other the truth about their work. When a publisher offered Jane an advance to write a book about extrasensory perception, she took it for the money. Her plan was straightforward. She would investigate the field, find it to be nonsense, and produce a debunking book that would be entertaining and skeptical and well paid. The Ouija board was an experiment, a throwaway scene she could include for color. She and Robert had no expectation that anything would happen. When the planchette started moving on the 3rd night, Jane's first reaction was suspicion. She accused Robert of pushing it. He accused her. They tried it alone. The planchette kept moving. The answers kept coming. The voice on the board described details about Jane's life that Robert had never heard, and details about Robert's life that Jane had never heard. The information was checkable. They checked it. It was accurate. Within a few weeks, the voice asked them to put the board away. It would speak through Jane directly. The first time it happened, Jane was terrified. She felt her ordinary consciousness slide sideways. She felt something else move into the foreground, calm, articulate, older than her. When she opened her mouth, the voice that came out had a different timbre, a different rhythm, a different vocabulary. The personality identified itself with the same name. I am Seth. Robert grabbed his notebook and started writing in shorthand. He had been a journalism student. He could take dictation at over 100 words per minute. He would need every bit of that speed for the next 21 years. Sessions were held on Monday and Wednesday nights at 9 o'clock, sometimes longer sessions on weekends. Jane would sit in her rocking chair. Her glasses would come off, her body posture would shift. And Seth would arrive, speaking for 1 to 3 hours at a stretch, dictating coherent paragraphs, returning to themes from previous sessions with perfect continuity, sometimes pausing to correct Robert's spelling, sometimes telling jokes, sometimes commenting on what was happening in the room. By 1970, the sessions had produced enough material for the first published book, the Seth material. By 1972, Seth was dictating his own books directly. Seth Speaks, then The Nature of Personal Reality, then The Unknown Reality, then 6 more. He gave the books titles, he dictated the chapters in order, he inserted his own introductions and prefaces. Robert took every word verbatim. And the part that most accounts skip is Seth had company. In 1970, a second presence began to speak vaster, slower, more abstract. Seth himself referred to it as Seth 2 and described himself as a fragment of it. The voice felt geological, as if mountains were speaking. Around the same time, a group of voices called the Sumari began to come through. They spoke and sang in a language nobody recognized. Jane recorded the songs on tape. Linguists who examined the recordings found internal consistency, repeated grammatical structures, distinct vocabulary. The songs were real. The language was real. Jane could speak it on demand and translate it loosely. She never claimed to know what it was. In 1977, Jane channeled an entire book by the philosopher William James, who had died in 1910. The book was called The After-Death Journal of an American Philosopher. Scholars familiar with James' published work said the prose carried his cadence, the arguments carried his style, the personality carried his fingerprint. She channeled the painter Paul Cézanne, who described his theories of art from beyond death. She channeled an Elizabethan-era figure who dictated in archaic English. Calling Jane a channel undersells what was happening. She was something else, a portal, and whatever would come through came through. So the question that hung over the work from the very beginning was the question that has never been answered. Who was Seth? Was he a non-physical entity as he claimed, a teacher visiting this dimension to deliver a body of teaching for a species at a transition point? Was he a deeper part of Jane's own psyche, dressed up in a different voice to deliver wisdom Jane was too modest to claim? Was he some collaboration between the two in a category we have no language for? Jane herself refused to choose. She offered all three possibilities. She said the teaching stood regardless of the source, and that was her final word on it until the day she died. But the teachings themselves are what we came here to talk about. Because in those 21 years, Seth said things that have shaped your world even if you've never heard his name. Most of what he said is still waiting for you. Before the universe began, there was something. Seth said it many times across many sessions in many different ways. The closest he would come to it in human language was this. Before any beginning you can imagine, there existed something he called all that is. A consciousness so vast and so original that all of physical reality, every galaxy, every atom, every soul, every grain of sand on every beach, on every world exists inside it as one expression of its being. And before creation began, all that is was in agony. Hear this from the passage from a 1970 session, because nothing in any religion or any philosophy you have encountered comes close to it. Dimly remembered through what you would call history, there was a state of agony in which the powers of creativity and existence were known, but the ways to produce them were not known. All that is existed in a state of being, but without the means to find expression for its being. All that is had to learn this lesson and could not be taught. The Creator suffered. The Creator yearned to give form to its own infinite being and had no idea how. And then inside its own dreams, something began to happen. All that is saw an infinity of probable conscious individuals. These probable individual selves found themselves alive within a God's dream, and they clamored to be released into actuality. All that is yearned to release them and sought within itself for the means to do so. Finally, with love and longing, it let go of that portion of itself, and they were free. The psychic energy exploded in a flash of creation. That is the creation story. This is no wrathful God commanding the universe into existence. This is no serene Buddha mind contemplating emptiness. A consciousness in love and longing, suffering its own infinite potential until it released a portion of itself into being, and the universe blossomed out of that release. The cry came first. You came second. The universe is the answer to that cry. Hold that frame in your mind, because what comes next will sound impossible. In one of his final books, Dreams, Evolution, and Value Fulfillment, Seth gave a creation story for life on Earth that has no equivalent in any tradition. He said, the universe dreamed itself into being. Consciousness was first. The dream was first. The physical world emerged from the dream and continues to emerge from it in every moment. The first humans, Seth said, were what he called sleepwalkers. They walked the earth half here and half somewhere else. Their main consciousness was still in the dream state, in the source. They moved through the physical world with their bodies on autopilot, while the larger portions of themselves remained in the larger reality from which they had emerged. These were the ancient dreamers. They were our ancestors. And here's the line Seth dropped that stopped me. You walk in your sleep. You dreamed your languages. You spoke in your dreams and later wrote down the alphabets. Your knowledge and your intellect have always been fired, sharpened, propelled by the great inner reality from which your physical experience emerges. Language came from dreams. Every word in every alphabet on this planet was received before it was spoken. The Sumerian cuneiform, the Egyptian hieroglyphs, the Chinese characters, the Greek and Hebrew and Arabic and English alphabets, all of them were dreamed first and recorded second. We dreamed the world. Then we wrote them down, and we forgot where they came from. Civilization itself is a transcript of a much older dream. Seth went further. He said the same is true for every major insight in human history, every scientific breakthrough, every artistic vision, every spiritual revelation. They arrived through the same channel. Newton's laws, Einstein's relativity, Tesla's coils, every melody that ever moved you, all of it is downloaded from a layer of consciousness that was here before we were and remains here now, just out of the corner of our waking eye. Which brings us to the part of Seth's cosmology that rewrites one of the foundational stories of Western civilization, the Garden of Eden. Chapter 5 of Dreams, Evolution, and Value Fulfillment is titled The Garden of Eden. Man loses his dream body and gains a soul. In Seth's version of the story, the fall was no fall from grace. The fall was a fall into matter. Humanity narrowed its focus. We pulled our awareness out of the dream source and concentrated it in physical reality. We traded our easy contact with larger reality for sharp, vivid, particular sensory experience. We chose the apple because we wanted to taste it. We chose the world because we wanted to feel it in our skin. And the price of that choice was forgetting where we came from. Every religion in the world tells a version of this story and gets it backwards. They tell you humanity fell from a state of perfection because of disobedience or sin. Seth said humanity stepped into a state of intense focus because of desire. The garden was the dream state we left behind. The expulsion was an embrace of the physical. And what we call original sin is actually original desire, the longing to be here, to taste, to touch, to feel matter on our skin. 2,000 years of guilt architecture built on a misreading. There was no sin. There was a yearning. The same yearning all that is felt before it released us into being. We inherited the yearning. We followed it down into flesh. And one day, Seth said, we will remember the dream we came from. Some of us are remembering now. Take this seriously for the next few minutes because it will reframe the rest of your life if you let it. You are in a trance. In this very moment, you've been in this trance your entire adult life. You stepped into it so gradually, you have no memory of the threshold. The trance feels indistinguishable from ordinary reality because it has always been with you. But that is the definition of a deep trance. The subject is unaware of the suggestion. This is one of Seth's central teachings, and the modern self-help industry has done everything possible to bury it. Because once you understand what Seth meant by natural hypnosis, you understand that almost everything sold to you as manifestation or mindset work or the law of attraction is a partial version of something far older and far more powerful. Here's Seth on this point. From the nature of personal reality, even in primitive societies, witch doctors and other natural therapists have understood that the point of power is in the present, and they have utilized natural hypnosis as a method of helping other individuals to concentrate their own energy. All of the gestures, dances, and other procedures are shock treatments startling the subject out of habitual reactions so that he or she is forced to focus upon the present moment. The resulting disorientation simply shakes current beliefs and dislodges set frameworks. The shaman's drum, the dervish's spin, the Pentecostal speaking in tongues, the yogic breath that takes you out of ordinary time. Every spiritual technology in human history has been a method for the same thing, interrupting the trance long enough to rewrite the suggestion. Because here's what Seth said your beliefs actually are. Your beliefs are post-hypnotic suggestions you accepted, then forgot you accepted. Your parents gave you some of them before you could speak. Your culture gave you others before you could think. Your church, your school, your government, your peer group, each one slipped in suggestions during periods when your conscious mind was relaxed and your guard was down. You accepted them. You walked out into the world wearing them, and now you experience the world the suggestions told you to experience. The suspicious person walks through a world of suspicious people. The unworthy person walks through a world that confirms their unworthiness. The abundant person walks through a world of abundance. None of them are seeing reality. All of them are seeing a hallucination shaped by their core beliefs and reflected back as evidence. This is the part of the teaching that gets stripped out of every modern course. You are emerging from a trance you induced in yourself decades ago. And the trance is so deep, you mistake its contents for objective fact. The phrase, the point of power, is in the present, has been reduced to a refrigerator magnet. What Seth actually meant was this: in this moment, you have access to the only place where trance can be rewritten. The past is closed, the future is unwritten. Now is the only point of contact with the energy that built your life. Now is the place where you dehypnotize yourself, and the way you dehypnotize yourself is by finding your core beliefs. Seth instructed Jane and Robert and the audience of the nature of personal reality to do a specific exercise. Write down every belief you hold about yourself: money, love, health, worth, power. Other people sit with the list, pretend the beliefs belong to a stranger, then ask the question that breaks the trance. Strip every other piece of evidence. Build a life from these beliefs alone. The life you build is the life you have. Your life mirrors your beliefs. Always, without exception. The match is exact because your beliefs are the hypnotic instruction your perception is following. And once you see the belief begins to dissolve. That is the teaching the modern movement removed, because the modern movement wants you to keep your beliefs and add positive ones on top. Seth said your beliefs are already running the whole show, and the work is to find them and choose them consciously, instead of inheriting them and forgetting you did. This is where Seth went somewhere even the cutting edge of modern science has only started to catch up to. In 1980, the Butt's cat Billy got sick. He was a stray they had taken in 3 years earlier. He developed a urinary blockage. Robert rushed him to the vet. The vet kept him for treatment. 2 days later, the vet called and said Billy had died. Jane and Robert were devastated. In the next session, they asked Seth what had happened. What Seth said in response is one of the most haunting passages in his work. You both knew Billy was about to die. So did the plants in your house and the trees outside your door. The cellular announcement was made that the strong possibility existed, for the birth and death of each cell is known to all cells in the world. Cellular communication is too fast for you to follow. The plants knew. The trees outside the apartment knew. The cellular announcement of Billy's coming death traveled through the living web of the building, the block, the neighborhood, the world, faster than thought, faster than language. A planetary communication system built into every living cell. And Seth said it operates continuously beneath your awareness every moment of your life. Modern biology has begun confirming pieces of this. Mycellular networks transmitting information across forests, trees releasing chemical signals that warn other trees of predators, cells in your body communicating with each other through electromagnetic fields, quantum coherence in photosynthesis. The whole picture is forming slowly in the peer-reviewed journals. Seth said it plainly in the 80s. The web is real. The web is biological. Your cells are in conversation with the cells of every living thing within range, and the range is much wider than you think. You stand connected. You've always stood connected. The trance includes the suggestion of separation, and the species, Seth said, is mutating now. The psychic openings happening across the world in the past few decades are no anomaly. They are the next baseline emerging. The boundaries of the self are beginning to dissolve in millions of people at once, because the species is stepping out of one phase of consciousness and into another, and the trance is starting to crack. There is a part of Seth's work that has been almost completely erased from the public conversation about him. These are the teachings that contradicted the marketplace, that would have wrecked careers if they had been carried forward. The teachings that point at something so strange about the nature of being human that polite spirituality cannot afford to repeat them. Start with this one. You have counterparts walking the earth at this very moment. In the unknown reality, Seth introduced one of his most disorienting concepts. He said your greater identity, the larger self, of which your present personality is one expression, fans out across past and future lifetimes. It also fans out horizontally across this one, right here today on this planet. You have other selves living parallel Earth experiences, different bodies, different countries, different professions, different decisions. These are no soulmates. These are no twin flames. These are other angles of you, other facets of the same gem. They contribute to the same greater identity you are a part of, and you contribute to theirs. You may have met one. You may have felt a strange jolt of recognition with a stranger and had no idea what to do with it. Seth said the recognition was real. The face across the room belonged to a counterpart. Some part of you knew. Follow this chain because the teachings link together. If you have counterparts living parallel Earth lives, you also have probable selves living the lives you choose against. Every major decision you have made created a fork. The version of you that took the other path continues to exist in a parallel probable reality, living out the consequences of the choice you declined. They are real, alive. They are influencing you through dreams and hunches and the strange certainty you sometimes feel about a road you never traveled. Seth said this about flinching. He said the multiverse is populated by yous, some happy, some struggling, some flourishing in ways you cannot imagine. The path you're walking is one of many. The other paths still belong to you. In a series of late sessions published as The Magical Approach, Seth laid out the most direct practical teaching of his entire body of work, and almost nobody knows the book exists. He said there are two ways to operate in reality, two methods, two completely different approaches to the question of how a human being should live, act, and create. The first he called the rational approach: effort, force, schedule, push, control, will, grind, plan everything, predict everything, measure everything, push through resistance, get the result. The second he called the magical approach: trust, impulse, allowing, playfulness, spontaneity, letting events organize themselves, following the natural pull instead of forcing the outcome. Every productivity guru on this planet has taught you the first approach, every business book, every self-help framework. Seth said the first approach is backwards. He said it is an unnatural overlay civilization has imposed on the species, and it is actively blocking the results people want. The magical approach is how reality actually works. The flower makes no demand of the sun. The bees keep no schedule for the pollination. Reality operates magically by default, and you fall out of alignment with it the moment you try to control outcomes. As Seth says, for true discipline is found only in spontaneity. Spontaneity knows its own order. That overturns foundation of Western achievement culture. The discipline you've been taught is the opposite of the discipline that works. The order you've been forcing into your life is interfering with the order your life would naturally find. The way you operate magically, Seth said, is by following your impulses. Impulses are the language of the psyche, Seth says. Every cell of your body feels the impulse toward action, response, and communication. Your impulses are the species' intelligence speaking through you. They arise from the same deep layer that gives birth to every dream and every insight and every act of creation. The impulse to call a particular friend at a particular moment, the impulse to take a different street home, the impulse to write the strange paragraph or send the unsent message or quit the wrong job. These are messages from your larger self carrying information about probable paths and creative possibilities that your conscious mind cannot calculate. Civilization has trained you to suppress your impulses, to override them with reason, to wait for permission, to check with authority, to behave. Seth said that suppression is the root of most personal disease and most collective sickness. The impulse blocked builds pressure. The pressure becomes physical symptoms or emotional dysfunctions or social catastrophe. The fanatic was once a person whose impulses were so completely suppressed that when they finally erupted, they erupted into violence. Follow your impulses. All of them, trust them. They are the operating system trying to course correct you back to the life your larger self chose for you. And then there is the strange material, the material that turns Seth from a teacher into something else entirely. UFOs. Seth said, the flying saucers people are no extraterrestrial craft. They are bleed-throughs from adjacent planes of reality, and a plane in Seth's cosmology is sometimes a planet, sometimes a time, sometimes an emotional state. The reason UFOs morph in shape and seem unstable is because they are caught between dimensions, struggling to retain their original form while being forced to conform to this reality's patterns. They are real. The origin point lies elsewhere. They come from sideways. Then there's Atlantis. Seth said Atlantis is no lost continent in the deep past. It is a future memory projected backward, a psychic blueprint of an ideal civilization humanity keeps glimpsing and recording as if it had already happened. Plato received the vision and wrote it down as history. He was off by a direction. Atlantis is ahead of us. Some part of us knows. The last teaching is the one that will dismantle the foundation if you let it. Across 21 years of sessions, Seth circled back to one idea more than any other. He gave it a name in his final book, Dreams, Evolution, and Value Fulfillment. He called it Value Fulfillment. Value fulfillment is the deepest law of the universe Seth ever articulated, and it has no equivalent in any other system you've encountered. Forget survival, reproduction, enlightenment, forget progress. Value fulfillment. Every atom, every cell, every consciousness, every soul, each one is here for one purpose: to express its unique value in joyful unfolding. The universe makes no attempt to evolve. The universe seeks no improvement. The universe pursues no goal. The universe is trying to be more completely what it already is. That reframes the entire question of your purpose. Forget achievement or becoming. You are here to be more fully you, to fulfill the specific value your existence carries, which has never been carried by anyone before and will never be carried by anyone again. Every atom in your body is participating in the same project at its scale. The trees outside your window are doing the same thing. The galaxies are doing it. All that is doing it through every one of its creations at once. Value fulfillment is the music the universe is playing, and you are one of the notes. And then there's a teaching that if you let it in, will collapse 2,000 years of religious architecture. From the nature of the psyche, Seth said, "You were born into a state of grace. It is impossible for you to leave it. You will die in a state of grace, whether or not special words are spoken for you, or water or oil is poured upon your head. You share this blessing with the animals and all other living things. You cannot fall out of grace, nor can it be taken from you. You can ignore it. You can hold beliefs that blind you to its existence. You will still be graced, but unable to perceive your own uniqueness and integrity. There is no original sin. There is no fallen humanity. There is no separation from the divine that requires repair through ritual, sacrifice, or belief. The state of grace is the floor. It has always been the floor. You stand on it now. You have stood on it every day of your life. You will stand on it the moment of your death. The animals stand on it. The trees stand on it. The whole creation stands on it together. The only thing you can do is forget you are standing on it. Religions made a mistake about grace. They put grace on the other side of the transaction. Seth said grace was the starting condition. It always has been. And the species, Seth said, is in the middle of remembering. In his final books, Seth made a prediction that has aged in a way nobody could have predicted. Human capabilities, he said, will be seen as what they are, and a great new period of development will occur in which all concepts of selfhood and reality will be seen as primitive superstition. The species will actually move into a new kind of selfhood. He said that in 1979. He described a moment in human history when psychic abilities would be recognized as ordinary, when the boundaries of the self would dissolve and reform, when humanity would step out of its one phase of consciousness and into another. He said it would happen in the lifetimes of his audience and their children. Look around the world today. Look at what is opening across millions of people simultaneously. The mass awakening, the interest in consciousness, the collapse of materialist certainty, the return of the sacred in places that had abandoned it. We are living inside that prediction. Jane Roberts died on September 5th, 1984. She was 55 years old, just a few years older than me. Takes me aback a little bit. She did not live a long life. She died of complications from severe rheumatoid arthritis, the same disease that had crippled her mother. Skeptics use this as the gotcha. They say if Seth was real and the teachings were true, Jane would have healed herself. They say her death disproves her work. The students of the material say something else. They say Jane was working out in her own life the deepest version of what Seth was teaching, the inheritance of belief across generations, the way the body answers the mind, the difficulty of escaping a core belief installed before language. A doctor dying of cancer says nothing about whether oncology works. Jane wrestled with an inherited illness her entire adult life and produced one of the most coherent and influential bodies of spiritual teaching in modern history while doing it. Robert outlived her by 24 years. He kept transcribing the unpublished sessions until the day he died in 2008. He spent decades organizing the work, preparing it for archive, making sure nothing was lost. The final boxes, 500 of them, went to Yale University Library, Manuscripts and Archives, Collection MS 1990. You can request access. The sessions are still being transcribed. And the question that hung over the work in 1963 still hangs over it now. Who was Seth? Was he a non-physical entity? A teacher beyond this dimension visiting a species at a transition point? A ghost? Was he a deeper part of Jane Roberts' own psyche, dressed in a different voice to deliver wisdom Jane was too modest to claim? Was he some collaboration between the two in a category we have no language for? Jane never chose. She offered all three possibilities and refused to land on one. She said the teaching stood regardless of the source. She was correct, because every answer to the question changes everything about what a human being is. If Seth was real, the universe is more populated than science admits. If Seth was Jane's own deeper mind, the human psyche is more vast and creative than psychology can explain. If Seth was something we have no word for, the categories themselves are broken and we need new ones. Pick an answer. Each one rewrites your understanding of what you are. 21 years, 1,500 sessions, 21 published books, 500 boxes at Yale. And every time someone on this planet says you create your own reality, they are speaking in a voice that first came through a poet in Elmira, New York, on a December night in 1963. The phase got through, a part of a larger teaching that many other teachers have taught, but Seth had a unique way of teaching it, in a unique way when channelings were not the same as they are today. In fact, Seth set the path for channelings like the Law of One. Seth set the path for so many other channelers, including Abraham Hicks. I just recommend you pick up one of his books and check them out. They're amazing. Before we go, I wanted to invite you to join the Reality Revolution community. You can find the link in the description at www.school.com/reality revolution. We have 2 tiers now. It's very easy to join. We have weekly group coaching sessions and material that you cannot access on YouTube, with an amazing community, an incredible spirit family. I hope you can join us there. You can find the link in the description. I'm sending all my light and love to everyone that's listening, and welcome to the Reality Revolution. There's a version of your life where everything you've been reaching for arrives, where the money flows, where love opens, where your body heals, where every step carries the frequency of the self you were always meant to be. That life exists, and the path to it has been 8 years in the making. This July, the Reality Revolution comes home to Anaheim. 3 full days of teaching, meditation, and timeline activation. 9 complete sessions designed to move you from the life you're living to the life that is waiting. Activate your pineal gland, meet your higher self, quantum jump into your greatest timeline, enter the bliss body healing state, step into the flow of large sums of money, open fully to love, shift into a higher density new earth. Friday night, the community celebrates together. Saturday evening, a special appearance from Daryl Anka. And by Sunday evening, you walk out as the version of yourself your future self has been waiting for.
I love So I knew I had to be in the room, because it's different from like listening to the meditation videos online.
It was really getting into yourself and how you feel and your timelines.
It's time at the event, and it really is. It's wonderful. So, like, I would highly recommend to anyone, if you get the opportunity to do it, absolutely do it. It really is amazing.
The Reality Revolution live in Anaheim, July 24th, 25th, and 26th at the Hilton Anaheim. 3 days that will change the trajectory of your life. Early bird pricing is available now. Claim your seat at www.brianscottlive.com/Anaheim.